All right, guys. We're trying something new, okay? So there's a lot of technical things going on right now. First things first, can you guys hear me very, very clearly? Like I'm talking real clear. I have a mic on tonight, so I know my last Whiteboard Wednesdays were very, very uh, echoey. So I would love to hear if you guys can hear me good and very clear. Please go ahead and put in the comments like a yes, thumbs up, or something along the lines. Okay, perfect, Aaron. Thank you. Okay, so guys, I have a new. We have a lot to talk about tonight. Tonight's a big, big topic for parents with children. So we're going to talk about 529 plan adjustments. I'm going to make sure you guys can see this very clearly. I do have my mic on. I'm going to move away from this in a second, so I should sound as if I'm talking to you right next to you, even when I move from where I'm standing. Okay. So, one last chance. I'm going to stand away from it real fast. Are you guys able to hear me exactly the same as before right now? Because really quickly, I just want to see in the comments that you guys can before I start. Okay, sweet. Thank you. Who is that? All of you guys. Thank you. Okay. All right, sweet. So I got a mic. It actually works, guys. So that's a good start. All right. So what are we talking about tonight? We are talking about 529 plan adjustments. And if you guys are reading this and that you thought or you saw the Whiteboard Wednesday notification go away and you thought it meant 529 updates, then please, you need to stay on this live this entire time because that's not what this is about. This is a specific account, guys, obviously, right? The 529. It's an investment account for children. As you can see here, what is it? It's a tax advantage savings plan for educational expenses. If you have children, or it could be for yourself, right? We'll talk about that in a second. But Congress came out and basically said that beginning in 2024, that these adjustments are going to be made to 529. So previously speaking, let's say right now, there's a lot of limitations when it comes to investments, and a lot of people are kind of hesitant, I'd say, to invest in a 529. I know it's a great vehicle, obviously, but they're worried, what if college changes? What if things change in the future? All these sorts of what ifs. And I think what Congress did was they heard us for once, and they said, well, let's make some adjustments. So we're going to walk through all the adjustments tonight. I'm going to explain them in layman's terms, and we're going to get after this tonight. And so, guys, feel free to ask questions in the question mark box as well, whatever you guys need to do. So I'll answer a lot of questions here soon. Okay, so first off, let's start again with kind of what this is, right? It's a tax advantage savings plan for educational expenses. That could be a lot of different things. When I say educational expenses, that could mean a lot of things. So first things first is K through 12 education. I don't think a lot of people understand that a 529 is not just higher education. It can be meant for K through 12, meaning kindergarten through 12th grade, right? So a lot of times where people use this is if, hey, at let's say 9th or 10th grade, you kind of get the idea that your kid's not going to go to college. They might be going to, so I don't know, whatever they want to do outside of primary education, or even apprenticeship. Maybe they want to start their own business. Maybe they're just not meant for college. I don't know. But a lot of parents will start to use that 529 money that has been accumulated for college theoretically for K through 12. So basically, if you have a private education from, in high school or whatever, you can kind of offload some of that burden. Not burden, it's an investment that you've made for your children, but therefore you won't hit penalties down the line, and you can actually utilize it for, high school or even below that. I typically wouldn't recommend to use it for third grade or something like private school or whatever. And the reason being is because your money is not sitting there long enough to accumulate to actually grow. And ideally, a 529 is for college typically, but K through 12, you guys can use it for that. So that's obviously availability. Second being college education, that's a no-brainer, is the second piece of this. And it also covers apprenticeship programs. And let's say a trade that you want to go to or whatever, it's going to cover that as well. So a lot of parents have, what if my kid wants to become a plumber or an electrician? It covers that stuff. Now, what are actually qualified expenses, right? So up here I say this tax advantage savings for educational expenses, but what qualifies for qualified expenses? Number one, meal plans, tuition and fees, books and supplies, off-campus housing, student loan payments, accessibility equipment. So all of those things that you could think of pretty much qualify for the expense that you can use that money within that plan, withdraw that money, totally tax-free, no impact to you, straight towards tuition and fees, etc., whatever you want to use it for here. This is a phenomenal tool, guys, to use for your kids. But that is kind of what already is. We already know this. Nothing has changed what I just talked about. However, the way it's been used in the past is if you have to withdraw that money because let's say your kid doesn't go to college, something horrific happens and you don't have to use that money, right? And you have $100,000 in there and sitting there and you're like, well, shoot, my kid's not going to college. I could give it to another child and another like one of their siblings. I could gift it to a future grandchild. There's a few different options you can do with it, but it's really that. And if you don't use it for that, you could change the beneficiary and use it for yourself. But some people aren't, parents that are 45, 50 and they've saved for their kids have no intention of going back to school. So therefore it's kind of like dead money in a sense, and therefore you have to pull it. And sometimes you'll get a withdrawal and tax penalty to that of 10%, kind of like a traditional IRA or 401k that you pull too early without proper guidance, and you get that 10% penalty on top of the regular income tax. So you have to deal with that typically. Now things have changed, so let's talk about what's changing in 2024 and beyond, according to Congress as of December 23rd. So first things first, guys, is there is an ability to take your money in a 529 that's unused, totally unused, and do different things with it. You can now roll that money over into an IRA. So let's talk about the limitations behind this, because it's not just Free Willy. Because honestly, I thought about it the second I started hearing about it. I was like, oh my gosh, there's excellent opportunity here. We could do all these types of things. But I knew Congress I knew for a fact they would think about these loopholes. So first things first, guys, is the max allowable lifetime limit that you're able to transfer out of a 529 into an IRA of that beneficiary is $35,000. Okay, so that's the first limitation. You can't just throw my first thought was well, isn't this kind of like a way to basically put a bunch of extra money into an IRA for Logan and then just kind of put it, obviously not use it all and then put it back into her IRA later? Does not work that way. So as much as Logan would love that, she's not going to get that. It's up to $35,000. So you still don't want to overfund it. You still want to have some flexibility and fluidity with this decision how much to put in there, which I'll talk about in a second. Secondly, is the rollover must be for that beneficiary. So let me tell you guys a quick story. So when I first started investing in a 529, I was the beneficiary. I did that intentionally because we knew Logan was on the way. And so I started a 529 in my name, but I knew it was not for me at all. It was never going to be. And I changed the beneficiary once Logan was born. So if you have a little one on the way, or you guys have potential kids in the future and you're pretty close, you might already have a kid on the way, or you're talking about it and you're 100% guaranteed that you're going to have a kid, and the goal is obviously to save for college. You might want to start this now. You don't have to. I'd be very careful if you're 23 without a girlfriend. Don't start it at that point. But if you're let's say 30, you're engaged or you have a kid on the way, you could consider opening a 529 at that point, put it in your name, switch it the beneficiary at birth when you get the Social Security number. That's what I did personally, okay? So, but the rollover must be the beneficiary. So my thought, I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bunch of extra money into the account. Logan's going to use whatever she wants for college. I'm going to switch the beneficiary right after college, and I'm going to be the beneficiary. I'm going to roll over $35,000 to my name. I was like, this is awesome. And then I was like, wait, there's got to be a catch to it, which there is. The plan must be open for 15 years in the beneficiary's name. So you cannot just quickly flip the switch and just kind of, take a huge extra, amount into your IRA personally. It has to go to the beneficiary that's been listed for 15 years, which puts you in a bind because you're not going to plan this for 15 years. So you're pretty much, you can't get around that, right? It's pretty tough. Also, it's another very important piece of this is it's subject to the IRA contribution limit in a given year. So 2022 is $6,000, right? In 2023, the contribution limit is going to $6,500. So therefore, the rollover amount up to 35,000. Let's say we had exactly 35,000 left over that we were unusing. So we wanted to start rolling that over. But let's say Logan was maxing out an IRA. She cannot move over $6,000 in the given year that she already maxed out the IRA. But let's say she didn't. Let's say she's 18. She decided to, she wasn't working. I don't know. She never earned income. She didn't contribute for whatever reason. She could then therefore take 6,000 of that 35,000 and move it over in the given year. And then obviously that's going to adjust with whatever the contribution limit is for the given year. And, going outwards, thinking outwards, that could be significantly different, 15, 20 years from now. But it's always 6,000, 6,500, whatever that limit is. So that's a huge deterrent, guys, right there. That pretty much puts you in, it still is awesome. It's still an awesome flexible move that you can make. It's also one of those things where you're like, hey, if your kid is working and you can roll that over, you don't therefore have to take your $6,000 and contribute. You already know you're overfunded. Let's utilize this rule of up to 35,000. It's essentially, let's say, 6 years in a nutshell. If you had the 35,000 total, assuming today's contribution rate, you could do this for 6 consecutive years, not contribute yourself into an IRA, and then you could use that $6,000 you're contributing from your job or whatever you have into something else like a brokerage account, or maybe increase 401k contributions or an HSA or another excellent investment option. But with all that being said, this is awesome, but there are some limitations behind it. So that's why I want to go over this tonight. And then the other thing is you can't roll over contributions or earnings in the last 5 years. So basically Congress is saying, all the, the people out there like myself are like gamifying this and thinking, well, man, I'm going to do this and this and that. They put these rules in place for, obviously some flexibility, because there's a lot of unused 529 money, because it's hard to plan a precise number 18 years away from college for a kid that you have no idea what their ability is or what their specialty is or whatnot. So they're basically saying, this is a tough vehicle to plan for. It really is. And so therefore we're going to add these changes, these adjustments in the following years, beginning in 2024, and it's going to give us a lot of availability. But we can't just screw the tax code, because instantly I was thinking of all the different ways I could basically, gamify this, and they obviously have these things in place and purpose. And so who does this help? Who does a 529 or the plan adjustment actually help? People that receive child scholarships, people that saved too much money in a 529, a good problem to have in a sense, or just leftover funds, right? Just unused funds that just went kind of for whatever reason you have extra money left over, right? So that helps a lot of people. And then why would somebody use a 529 to begin with, right? Because that's really important to understand. Obviously it's for education, but there are taxable benefits to saving with the 529 opposed to just a parent taxable brokerage, because the gains that you have on that money, if you eventually pool that, it's a qualified educational expense, and you don't have to worry about paying taxes on those, which is a massive benefit. And so the people that say, I would never fund a 529, that's foolish. I think if you have your child going to or thinking about it, there's so much flexibility in today's rules between K through 12, between apprenticeship or college, all the different qualified expenses, even child scholarships, you're able to withdraw up to the amount that they get the scholarship. So you're able to withdraw that amount as well. Then you add all these additional adjustments in there as well. And it's a no-brainer. So what we have done, and I'll talk about our whole entire picture in a second, for Logan, is we've done a 529 and we funded an in-state tuition of expectation, 18 years from now. She's 15 months right now. So when we first started this process, we did 18 years from now, what is in-state 4-year school going to look like cost-wise? I want to fund 60% of that specifically. There was various reasons. Obviously, scholarships could be at play. We could have other things like we could have, she works during school. Shocker. I know it's really hard to imagine for some kids out there, but they can work during school. I worked during school myself, and I made a lot of money. I also was in school doing written essay for scholarship as well. So there's other ways. And then, who knows, athletics wise, what would happen as well. So, there's multiple ways. However, guys, in-state tuition has gone up 93%. Insanity. In-state tuition has. And so we really got to pay attention to educational costs. They're not going away. Now, they might change, things might change, obviously, with the student loan forgiveness and all the adjustments that might come elsewhere. But the reality is, guys, these schools are expensive and they're only getting more expensive. You cannot save money ever to build wealth in general, but you can't save money to pay for school. You're just not going to beat the odds of compound interest and growth in time. It's impossible. Now, the other thing, guys, is 5 states that basically F you. You have no state tax benefit, right? Lucky enough, well, I'm number 1 on that list, Kentucky. So we're in Northern Kentucky area, right? And as of now, we don't have a tax benefit. So therefore, our contributions that we put in there for Logan does not qualify for a state tax benefit. So for us, there's no benefit to using Kentucky's state plan. You're able to choose the state that you work with. And so if you're in Kentucky, California, Maine, Hawaii, or North Carolina, you don't qualify for the state tax benefit. Now, what does that actually mean, right? So when you contribute in, there's a state tax deduction you receive up to that amount. That's a cool, just like a 401k, right? But at a federal level. You contribute to a traditional 401k or a traditional IRA, and there's an immediate tax deduction off of your taxable income because you did that. Same thing applies to 529s, but for the state level. And therefore, since Kentucky and all these other states don't qualify, we don't have any allegiance to Kentucky's 529 plan. Every state, guys, that you're in, you just Google Georgia 529 plan, Texas 529 plan, Arizona 529 plan. Just Google that. Your state plan will pop up. There's nothing specific about it, right? Now, every plan is going to be different. There's some drawbacks to these in general, right? There's a lot of strict rules. Obviously, they're loosening them up quite a bit. There's limited investment options. So every state has its own investment options, its own set of investments that you are able to select from, just like a 401k. My 401k at my job might be different than Stacy's at her job, right? And so I don't know what her 401k would provide unless I knew it. So every state's the same way. They have limited investment options. They're different. I don't know what Georgia holds versus Maine versus New Hampshire or whatever. I'd have to see that number or those investment options, but they're limited, right? And then also there's limits on financial aid as well. So 529, there are adjustments at 5.64%, I believe it is, for your financial aid ability as a parent. So you got to watch that as well. However, it's one of those things where I think, the impact of financial aid is not that significant, and there's really not a better vehicle to save on. And I think in the long run, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, I make a lot of money. I have to pay more tax than the next person. But on a net benefit perspective, it makes more sense to use still, opposed to like an UTMA, which could be 25. I forget what it is, 25%. I forget the exact percentage. But there's an impact, maybe 20.64%, I think it is, which is pretty significant. So that's why I would always choose this. And then obviously other vehicles, not UTMAs. UTMAs suck. But yes, guys, so you can choose your own state. So for us, what we did, we lived in Kentucky. Obviously, we're moving to Texas next week. So things are going to change. But we have Vanguard. So Vanguard, what we decided to do is like, hey, I can pick any state. I knew Ohio was good. I know New York State is good. But I was like, you know what? I don't really have allegiance to anybody at all besides Vanguard in general. I love Vanguard, as you guys know. And so we just opened it with Vanguard, which is the state of Nevada. So theoretically, you could open a state tax return in Nevada, whatever. But we haven't gone that far. However, so we used Vanguard, which is the state of Nevada, and that is kind of the way we approached it. Now, like I said, we did 60%. We used Vanguard's college cost calculator tool. You guys can go Google that and figure that out, of what you need to get to. We also use a parent taxable brokerage account, which is my daughter's, our brokerage account, but it's for my daughter. And then we also have an IRA, a Roth IRA for her as well, which she is going to have for retirement. So there's a phenomenal, we have a set of three different accounts for her from an investment perspective, and we've set her up for life at 15 months. So it's beyond this conversation, guys, of the 529 plan adjustments, you can change your child's life and future like 100x, because if you start this at such a young age, your kids are the kids that, the peers that they have aren't going to compete with them from an investment standpoint. You will turn your kids to multimillionaires at a young age. All we are doing, guys, is putting $500 a month away into the 529 and the brokerage, 250 as of now. And an incredible amount is basically $240,000 is the projection at 18 years old, plus Roth IRA money, which begins her retirement. Could you imagine at 18 years old to have that money? I mean, that's insane. So If you could start for your investing for your child at this age, at 1, at 4, at 7, at 10, at 14, whatever that is, just start them. And that could be obviously the 529 that we talked about tonight for educational purposes. That can be a taxable brokerage account. That can be a Roth IRA potentially, depending on the income. You have to have earned income for that, obviously. And so there's so many different vehicles for children. I've also done a whole presentation in the Academy on additional options. There's 2 more options at play as well, just generalized options. There's more than that, but 5 traditional options most parents are going to use. But all right, guys, I hope that helped with understanding what the adjustments that are coming for 529s. Very clear and laid out in layman's terms, I hope. And I'm going to flip this around and answer some questions. All right, let's do this. So I have my mic on. Let's see. I'm in my daughter's room right now too. All right, let's see, guys. Let's see what we got here. So I thought I put this in the bottom, but yes, Gene, it is set $500 for 18 years, assuming an 8% return, and it's split between a taxable brokerage and a 529. Okay, so good question. Okay, Maurice, what's up, buddy? I know you started the Academy today. So he's asking, what happens if you start 509A in Ohio? I'm assuming you're talking about 529 in Ohio, then move to another state. So that's exactly what's happening to us right now, guys. So we are literally we technically started in Nevada, but we're moving to Texas next week. So we're gonna have to either keep it there, or we can adjust to Texas' estate plan, or I can move it to another plan if I want. Totally up to me. We haven't gotten that far yet. I will obviously provide updates as we get there, but we haven't made any adjustments quite yet. All right, I'm gonna scroll to the top and make sure I didn't miss any questions at the very top. One of the realists in the game. Appreciate you, Brett. And then I'll just scroll down, guys, answer questions. I have about 5 to 10 more minutes. I can do this. I have another presentation I got to run to. I'm glad the microphone worked as well, because the microphone gives me you guys are able to actually hear me clearly versus typically when it's like echoing and stuff like that. I also have a way better setup in Texas. We just have to get there, and so hopefully it's even better quality here soon. But it's all about the information, not the quality. Great options, even with the caveats. Yeah, I agree, Spencer. There's always a caveat to every single investment option, guys. It's all about aligning your goals with your investments. I had somebody talk to me today like, hey, where should I start my investment accounts? I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish. I have to start there, and once we get there, we're able to kind of make progress. Did they lower the 529 plan limit? No, not the limit as far as a plan goes, Troy. So every state's contribution limit's a little different, but they're pretty significant in size that I don't even really pay attention to them. Dude, you got like 700 pretending to be on Instagram. Yeah, guys, I can't help that. I'm working on getting the blue check and getting verified, so hopefully that comes soon. But I can't help that people are mocking my account or doing duplicates and trying to scam you guys. If anybody ever comes in your DMs and says, hey, give me money, like send me money for crypto or something, it's not me. Now, however, the thing is, the only problem about this is the people I'm talking to, you guys are the ones that listen to me or follow my account, and you know how I am, and you would always be very skeptical if that happened. The people that get scammed are the ones that just followed me, have no idea what's going on, and somebody scams them. I can't do anything about that. I've done as much as I can, guys. Unfortunately, I wish I could do more. All right, let's see, guys, what else we got here. Okay, what were the 3 accounts you mentioned that you have? Okay, so we have a 529 is our first account. We have a taxable brokerage in our name that we are going to gift to my daughter in the future, and we also have a Roth IRA. These are all very, very specific, and not everybody can use all of those accounts, just like I just explained. It just kind of depends on the situation. Do I like the idea of simply dollar cost averaging into VU for a child's IRA taxable brokerage account? I don't mind the brokerage account, or sorry, the IRA, because That's obviously for the extension of probably 40 plus years plus. The Unfortunately, the brokers, guys, it's a little different than that. Like, you can't just dollar cost average into like one index fund or ETF, because risk changes. The timeline of that account's going to change. The brokerage, depending on what the point of it is, you're going to have to probably do something a little different. If you have $100,000 and the market drops by 40% because you're in the S&P 500, like, what's going to happen? You're going to lose $40,000. And so you got to be kind of careful about doing just a simple VOO as you get closer to that age that you withdraw that. Is the 35,000 per account? Yes. Yes, it's per account. Cass, yes, 100%. How to budget your expenses? Yeah. I'm not going to answer those questions on the Whiteboard Wednesday, guys. How to budget your expenses is just go look at my content for 4 seconds and you'll find that answer. I promise you. I have lots of YouTube videos on that specifically. But this is obviously Whiteboard Wednesday for a specific topic. And it looks like all the questions are answered, guys. So again, this will be saved on YouTube, just like all my Whiteboard Wednesdays are on YouTube. So if you guys want to go look at all the various topics we've talked about, go to my YouTube. Very good long presentations on specific topics that we dive into. If you guys want me to talk about a specific topic, obviously this 529 was very timely as it just came out. Please let me know. Please send me a DM and say, I want you to talk about X. You might be surprised. I might have already talked about it in the past, because like tax loss harvesting is one. How to invest for your children is one. You can go Roth or traditional or 401ks versus IRAs and all that kind of stuff. Go to my YouTube. I have a plethora of options to deep dive into specific topics that give you guys as much value as I possibly can. But anyways, guys, I got a whiteboard, or I got another presentation I got to run to. Appreciate all the love, guys. Send me DMs if you guys have any questions, and have a good New Year.